From the Roundtable in legendary Uncle Studios, welcome to another edition of WorkCom Matters, the central location for you employees, you employers, and independent contractors. My name is Steve Appel, and I'll be your host for the next hour with some talk, some news, and hopefully some answers about WorkCom Matters. Thanks for being part of the show, and if you can break away from your WorkCom Matters, feel free to give us a call and clue us in with your questions, comments, and or concerns. The phone number worldwide, 818-357-4120. You can send an email to wcexaminer@aol.com. You can be old school and send a fax to 818-475-1437. With me in studio, my right-hand man, Mike Zyma, the best-dressed man, Ted Durden, my protege, attorney, Robert Ozeron. Scott Walton of Uncle Studios, engineering the show, taking care of the technical difficulties, and of course back at WorkCom Central, making sure the whole damn thing goes right, is Mr. Jake Paris. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of WorkCom Matters. We're brought to you by A1 Law, Santa Monica Tickets, and ABC Rugs. Got to give a shout-out and a thank you to Mr. Mark Reed coming out, entertaining, informative, as always, and that's really the basics of the show. You know, a little news, a little talk, and hopefully some answers, but we are full strength tonight, and well, what can I say? The show is called Guilty because Donald Trump, the gift that never stops giving, along with Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort, they're both going to jail, and Donald Trump is still running the country. What do you think, guys?
They may be going to jail.
Well, hold on. Manafort is like, guilty on 8 counts.
On 8 out of 18.
He may get pardoned.
And he may get up to 80 years at Long Park.
That's very true. That's true. You know, it's very possible because I think he has positioned himself, or at least his attorney has, to have Donald Trump pardon him. He came out and thanked Donald Trump for weighing in, talking about we appreciate all the public support that he has shown. Donald Trump has consistently referred to Manafort as a good man, and so it's very possible that he will pardon him. That wouldn't surprise me.
Robert, I'd love to hear your take.
Well, I'm wondering, this is regarding campaign finance violations, correct?
Well, actually,
allegedly
Manafort is tax fraud and bank fraud.
Right?
Okay, but it's related to campaign finance violations.
Not really. Not on the 8 counts that he was found guilty of. It was him having, tax shelters abroad, all these fake accounts overseas,
money laundering,
and tax evasion. Well, the money laundering I think is coming out of D.C. or New York.
My question is this.
Maybe it was D.C. because he's going to be tried again. I think that's in New York.
This all stems from a Russia investigation with Mueller, right?
Yeah, that's the way it started.
It started.
So we're looking originally for some sort of outside interference by a foreign power in our election, and we end up with campaign finance violations.
Call it mission creep.
Well, yeah, so I don't think anyone.
And tax evasion.
Yeah. So and I think it was Cohen that's going to be hit with a campaign finance violation regarding the payments regarding to women for Trump, and it's just like no one cares.
He just
honestly,
agreed.
That's what my opinion.
He just agreed to plead guilty.
He pled it.
Yeah. He pled guilty, but and I think he may be the biggest problem for Trump because he indicated that Trump directed him to make the payments to Stormy Daniels, and I can't remember the other woman that he had the affair with.
I'm just wondering, if we're going to look into campaign finance violations, what would have happened if Hillary would have won the election?
Well, the same thing happened with Hillary, actually, with Whitewater.
It sure did.
That was supposed to be a insider trading investigation that turned into Bill Clinton, what are you doing in the Oval Office?
I just think it would be very reasonable to have concurrent investigations. If you're going to have one into the Republicans, have one into the Democrats, because I have a really strong suspicion that Hillary Clinton and the Democrats were up to so much malfeasance that it would make this little campaign violation look like nothing.
With that Russia stuff.
Yeah, so this is all started with Russia, which has ended up being a big nothing burger, and now we've moved on to like an illegal deposit and a transfer that he paid back. Like, I don't care.
It's serious stuff.
No, this is nothing small, Robert. No, you can't just brush over that or glide over that. You can't. Because again,
I'm not saying it's not illegal. It's a campaign finance violation. Whoa.
That's all right. Just finish. It's a podcast. Keep going.
And even as far as Hillary Clinton is concerned, I mean, the Republicans control the House and the Senate. They could investigate her at any given time if that's what they choose to do. Like I said, I'll acknowledge the fact that Mueller's investigation started out with a Russia probe, but there's no limit on what it can do, and so it meandered into all sorts of areas. That's how Cohen got caught up in it. That's how Manafort got caught up in it. Because you're right, to start out looking at some sort of campaign violations, or not so much that, but if there was any collusion with Russia, and then that was because of all the contacts that Manafort and all the business dealings they had in the Ukraine and with Russia. So it just kind of spidered from there.
I'm going to go out and actually put myself out on a limb here. I would say the reason you don't see any of these investigations into Hillary Clinton is not because they haven't done anything, but because the Clintons have been around Washington so long that they have dirt on everybody. And you're never going to find traction to get a probe into the Clintons, because they'll turn around and, I mean, they're friends with convicted pedophiles, put it that way. And that's the truth.
Trump was at one of their weddings or something like that, right?
Well, not that. I'm like, if you look into the people who have died investigating the Clintons, right? It gets, there's books about it. It's like a whole genre now of is it fact or fantasy? That stuff has been around
a while, though.
No, I mean, listen, I'm listening to it like on a Joe Rogan podcast, which this is a large public, this is a very large.
He's actually one of the top 5 podcasts in the world.
In the world, yes. So, and he's bringing this as a factual case against the Clintons. If you've seen that episode, I can't recall who the guest is who does it. And they're talking about the death of that staffer who was making leaks to WikiLeaks from the DNC, right? Talking about how Bernie Sanders was getting, screwed, how the primary was rigged. There was a staffer who died that got mugged, but no property was taken at like 3 a.m., right? What was his name? I'm sure one of our listeners.
Was it a Sanders staffer?
Yeah, it was a DNC staffer who was a big Sanders supporter, and apparently he may have found out. Mark Rich? I'm not sure. I got to find out the name. It's on the Rogan podcast, one of the larger, episodes, more famous episodes. Seth Rich is the
R-I-C-H?
Yeah, S-E-T-H-R-I-C-H. That's his name, and that's the staffer for the DNC that was making those WikiLeaks emails, and he ended up being killed. A robbery that they never solved. Very suspicious circumstances, talking about how Hillary was rigging the DNC, right? And then this person who's making these leaks ends up dead. It's just very interesting that somebody could be around Washington like the Clintons for such a long time, have friends that have been convicted of some serious things, right? But no investigation into the Clintons themselves.
What is Joe Rogan's background? Where does he come from? I'm not familiar
he was a comic.
with him. I know I should be. What?
Yeah, he was a comic and an actor, and then he started hosting like Fear Factor shows. You remember those where you would eat all sorts of crazy things?
Okay, I disconnected. Right. I know who that guy is.
Yeah, and then he also hosted the UFC for a while. He was the fight host.
Right.
And he ended up doing these long-form podcasts, where he brings in guests and they can really talk about their ideas. This is an hour show. Is he presenting
credible information?
Yeah. Well, he gets these, he has 1 million subscribers, 2 million or something like that on YouTube.
Yeah, so he gets all kinds of intel from all sorts of sources. But one thing I've always said, even as far as Trump and Russia, I don't think they're ever going to find any connection to Trump and any collusion with Russia. I don't think they're going to find anything. I really don't. And I've said that all along. I have. But is it possible that he has committed other violations? Sure, it's very possible. But something to do with Russia? I don't think there's going to be any there.
There's always a real threat that a foreign government will get some sort of material to blackmail or leverage against the president, without the people knowing. Mm-hmm. That's always a danger. Of course, we should investigate that type of influence and interference if it's taken place. But for example, I'll just go back to the Clintons. I was watching the documentary the other night on Netflix, right? And this is Netflix and YouTube.
Documentary on the Clintons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the history of the Clintons, right? The investigative journalist and all that.
Go ahead, tell me more.
What was it called? Whitewater?
No.
Go back to Whitewater?
They do go back to Whitewater. They go back to, testimony from Bill Clinton's, how should I say it, CHP officers, or their, his protection detail, where they're, sworn officers, and they're like, all we would do is protect him and lie to Hillary about all the women he was seeing and the drugs he was doing, and apparently, so it gets pretty detailed. Some of those claims get pretty extravagant. I don't know how far the truth is, but obviously there's so much into it.
Do you think Rogan has an axe to grind or no?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No, he presents everything. No. And for example, he even presented flat earth people, and he was very hard on them. He gave them a platform. but he pretty much told them, "You're an idiot."
Oh,
okay?
and I am ashamed to say I know a flat Earth person.
Oh no!
And
I've never even heard of a flat Earth person.
Well,
Never heard of it?
No, never.
It's insane. I mean, like, nice woman, nice family. She has children, which astonishes me. But anyway, during the course of a conversation, she actually espoused the fact that she believes that the world is flat.
Oh, the flat Earth people,
Right.
people that
Columbus,
still believe the world
Yeah,
is flat.
pre-Columbus.
Okay.
Right. I'm like, how do you explain? How do you justify that? Well, how do you know? Because if you're on an ocean, you know what they used to say back in the Middle Ages and wherever, it just looks like it just goes straight. I said, but it never ends. If you have four corners, you'd have to fall off the edge. It'd have to end somewhere.
Well, they have excuses now for that too. They have these fantastical stories where they're like, "Well, there's a huge ice wall, and you're all, the circumnavigation throws you off because it's all this
Is
and
this
that."
an educated woman? She's got a degree?
One would have to wonder. One would have to wonder.
Do you know? I mean, does she have a college degree?
Now, I don't know if she has a college degree.
How old
No.
is she?
I almost said her name, and I'm not going to do that.
Oh, no.
She
No, please do
No,
not
no,
say
no,
her
no.
name.
No, I'd have to venture a guess, but I think she's in her probably mid to late 40s because her oldest son graduated with my oldest son, who's 19 right now, going on 20. So I think it's safe to say she's probably in her mid to late 40s. Yeah, she has 3 children. And I started to ask her, I hope you're not teaching this to your kids, and I didn't want to get into it with her. But when she said that, I was just dumbfounded. I was just absolutely dumbfounded.
So Rogan is presenting some interesting information lately.
Yeah, and it's always long form. You sit
Rogan
down, you
is
can talk to
mostly
him.
self-help, right? He brings on guests that help
No.
you. No, not
No,
really.
I mean he brought on a mushroom guy where the guy was a doctor in fungi or whatever it was, and he was talking about how there's different types of mushrooms, and there was a caveman that they found that was like flash frozen in the Alps or something, and on his belt was this type of mushroom that allows you to keep a wick or something dry and ready to spark up, and it burns like slowly. So there's different mushrooms for different things. Some will, you eat it, right? Mushrooms are very interesting in general because
Some
right?
of it, because some of them are hallucinogens.
Yeah, some you take
that's
to heal you.
psilocybin. That's psilocybin.
Well, yeah, that talks about that too. There's some mushrooms you eat to heal you. Some mushrooms you eat, they'll kill you, right? So you really don't know with mushrooms. It's a very dangerous area
All right.
for
Well,
food.
from mushrooms, after flat Earth people, and then people that are guilty. My name is Steve Appel from legendary Uncle Studios, and we'll be back with some more talk, more news, and hopefully some answers. But we've got to pay a couple of bills. We're, of course, brought to you by A1 Law. If you need the #1 computer management system used by a more workers' compensation attorney than any other system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out, even front row concert, sports, theater tickets, give our buddy Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. Now here's a little something from ABC Rugs. ABC Rugs has been in the business of manufacturing and direct importation and exportation of Persian and Oriental rugs for more than 39 years. ABC Rugs is a direct importer and wholesaler of antique, Moroccan, Oriental, and Persian rugs. Established in 1978, ABC Rugs is definitely old school. 323-897-5444. That's ABC Rugs. 323-897-5444. And we've got some news coming up now. Scripps Hospitals is in the news. Department of Child and Family Services is in the news. Joy of Medicine program is in the news. Work requirements for Medicaid. A doctor's gender. Did I say that right, Mike?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. We've also
May
got,
determine the outcome.
thank you, information on the DMV audit and more. He's my right-hand man. He keeps me in check and out of trouble at least 90% of the time with the first news story of the day, Dr. Michael Zyma.
Thank you. For the second year in a row, Scripps Hospitals topped local competitors in the nation's highest-profile healthcare quality compendium. released last Tuesday the Best Hospitals list from U.S. News and World Report, ranked 7 Scripps specialties at its 2 La Jolla area hospitals among the 50 best in the nation, compared to 6 at UC San Diego's Jacobs Medical Center. Both systems had 8 ranked specialties last year. So get treated in the San Diego area.
A county review found that the Department of Children and Family Services took considerable actions in the case of 10-year-old Anthony Avalos, but nonetheless made a series of recommendations to minimize risk to other children in the future. The report by Michael Nash, head of the county's Office of Child Protection, drew a clear distinction between the child welfare system's failings preceding the horrific death in 2013 of 8-year-old Gabriel Fernandez and how it dealt with complaints in Anthony's case.
The Sierra Sacramento Valley Medical Society, one of the oldest medical societies in the West, celebrating its 150th anniversary this year, is attempting to curb the effects of physician burnout through its Joy of Medicine program. The program is a multidisciplinary approach to address burnout by encouraging wellness and resiliency among physicians in the region.
Does gender matter work when choosing a doctor? Whether your doctor is male or female could be a matter of life or death. A new study suggests the study of more than 580,000 heart patients admitted over 2 decades to emergency rooms in Florida found that the mortality rate for both women and men were lower when the treating physician was female, and women who were treated by male doctors were the least likely to survive. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Work Comp Matters. It's time for a musical break. He's La Familia, he's the Cherry Blue Storms, and he's Baby, You're a Rich Man.
How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? Now that you know who you are, what do you want to be? And have you traveled very far? Far as the eye can see. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do. How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? How often have you been there? Often enough to know. What did you see when you were there? Nothing that doesn't show. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do.
Cherry Blue Storms with Baby You're a Rich Man on Work Comp Matters, brought to you by A1 Law, Santa Monica Tickets, and of course ABC Rugs. What else is happening in the news, guys?
Well, since we're talking about guilty, What do you guys think about Duncan Hunter and his wife Margaret being found guilty of the whole campaign violation out of San Diego?
That is down in San Diego.
Right.
He's the state senator, I think, or is he
U.S. congressman, I
He's
believe.
a congressman, yeah.
U.S.
Oh,
congressman.
I thought he was in the state legislature.
Well, Issa was saying that there was some monkey business, but I didn't quite get what Issa was saying.
They were spending all of their campaign.
No, Issa was saying that there was monkey business with the bringing of the charges. It seemed to me that this was a garden variety crooked politician spending $250,000.
That's exactly what it was. That's exactly
So
what it was.
I don't know what ICE is talking about.
I don't either. Yeah, it was a $250,000 that they used out of the campaign funds for personal use.
Personal use, right.
Yeah, they dipped into it, I think it said like 1,100 times. And I couldn't believe that Hunter, when he was interviewed, he tried to say, well, it was honest mistakes. I'm not an accountant. I don't keep track of stuff like that.
You don't pay your dentist with campaign funds.
Thank you. Exactly. And a trip to, I think it was Disneyland, I think it was. I mean, he tried to shade and color all these expenses.
And he's a decorated Marine vet, too. I just don't get this.
I don't get that either. I don't get that either.
Robert, are you familiar
I'm just
with
wondering
this case?
what is it? It's similar. It must be similar to like a tax write-off, which is if it's like a write-off a business expense, it'd be something you can use your campaign fund
Sounds
for.
to me like it
But
ain't
if it's
cheating
personal,
unless you
it's
get
not.
caught.
They tried to
No.
say it was some of it. They tried to say was donations to charity, but paying your dentist is not.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. For example, like just getting creative, going out there on a limb again. What if someone's like getting cosmetic dentistry and it's to be a better candidate? Is that a campaign
Well,
issue
yeah,
or
but
is that a
you're
personal
inventing- You're
issue?
inventing facts. Who
Well,
cares?
I'm just
Right.
wondering. It's not like filling a cavity, right? I'm just
Like-
getting creative. Is it getting into the facts here regarding if it's for the campaign?
No, because
Right,
there was one instance where he bought personal clothing at a golf course, and he reported it as balls for wounded warriors.
I heard that.
Well, that's
too.
what I'm
Yeah, I
saying.
heard
Sometimes
that
it's
too.
going to be clear it's for personal use, but I'm wondering if for some of the charges whether he could have had a potential argument that this is
None
a
of the
business related.
charges that
Not
I
what
heard
I've
about,
not what I've heard about so
possibly,
far.
yeah.
None whatsoever.
How about meals? If you're having a meal,
There
does
were
it have to be
meals.
business, or if you're going on your own, you can't do it?
No, you can't.
But if you're having a guest for like another
There were
congressman, you
family
can,
meals,
right?
Expensive family meals that he said was a campaign expense.
Well, yeah, you can't dine out every night on it. But what if you're at the desk and you're ordering it like an attorney? Are you allowed to use funds for that to pay your staff with food,
I'm
to
not
buy
sure.
food for the
Well,
staff?
I've never run a campaign, so
I'm wondering. Yeah, we have to get the rule book out here because, for example, I can provide lunch for my staff, right? And that would be a write-off if I put it as like a company gift, right? Goodwill towards my staff. That would be a business expense. I'm wondering if it's similar in campaign world.
Not from what I've seen so far. With everything that they pointed out in the indictment, it lays out pretty clearly that the money that he used was for personal reasons, and you can't do it for that. Like I said, if you're having a dinner with a business partner, yes, you can. If you're attending a seminar, yes, you can. They even attended some Clinton gala, and he used that. I think that's fine. But when you're using it to buy clothing, pay a dentist, when you're taking your kids on a trip to Disneyland and using campaign funds, and I can't recall what it was that he trying to disguise it as, but you just can't do that.
When you're disguising it, I mean, obviously that shows your knowledge and intent.
Exactly.
So that's the clear case. But for the other ones, I'm wondering if a lot of these politicians are sitting here going, I wonder if I could deduct this right now, or am I going to end up like this guy?
Oh, I think that there's a lot of monkey business that goes on with
Absolutely
all that
no
Oh, yeah.
question about it.
No
Well,
doubt.
how much do they get paid per year versus the lifestyles you always see they seem to be living all the time, right?
Correct.
There's always something going on. I see that discrepancy.
And who was the? I think was this congressman? Was it in New Jersey? The one that was indicted on insider trading?
Oh yeah.
That was another reap. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they even got video of him the moment he learned that his investment was heading south. That the Food and Drug Administration would not approve a certain drug, and a company that he had invested heavily in was banking on FDA approval.
Mm-hmm.
And he called his son, who called some other people, and they dumped the stock.
They dumped it.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah, they catch you that way, huh? They always catch you.
yeah.
The Uber Technologies self-driving test vehicle that killed an Arizona pedestrian earlier this year may have been able to avoid the crash had the ride-hailing company not disabled Volvo car's safety system, according to a report by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. In that report, Uber was criticized for turning off Volvo's collision avoidance technologies in the XC90 sport utility vehicle that struck and killed a woman in Tempe, Arizona.
I'm just curious, did anyone at Uber indicate why they did that?
I know that since this happened, they have stopped doing their tests. They have stopped putting...
That's true, they have. That's right, they have.
Maybe they turned it off to see if their system would work. Seems rather reckless to me.
It does, because it's better to have more safety precautions than none. Or just one.
And if they're going to test theirs, do it on a test track.
But
right,
clearly
exactly.
Their goal is to go driverless within 5 or 10 years because then they don't have to pay their drivers, and the cost of running the operation is going to be simply managing the cars.
So it's another follow the money thing.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's why they have a lot of investors, even though it's a private company still. It doesn't have a stock. They've got a lot of investors lined up, and I look forward to the day of driverless cars. I hope by the time I reach old
when it's
age.
safe.
Exactly.
Until then, I still use Lyft. I don't use Uber.
Yeah, whatever's cheaper for the moment, right?
I just find I get a better, more reliable experience with Lyft than I do with Uber. Mike, I think you have the next news story.
Advocacy groups last Tuesday filed a lawsuit challenging the decision by President Donald Trump's administration to allow Arkansas to impose work requirements on Medicaid recipients in the state. The lawsuit, filed against the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in federal court in Washington on behalf of 3 Medicaid recipients in the state, claims that the federal Medicaid law does not allow the administration to approve work requirements.
Does gender matter?
Nope, I read that one already. Try again.
My bad.
That's all right. Your bad's a lot better than some people's good.
Assemblyman Jim Patterson, R. Fresno, presented an audit request of the California DMV last Wednesday, demanding an accounting of what he views as a deeply mismanaged agency. Oh, there's a news flash.
Yeah.
The DMV has expressed opposition to the audit, calling the proposal a strain, on resources that would detract focus away from reducing wait times, from 3 hours down to 2?
And this is after we reported on Work Comp Matters about the employee who had been sleeping on the job for 2.5, 3 years.
Right, and nothing has been done about it.
Well, something has been done. They spent $75 million to try to correct the problem, and they haven't corrected it.
No. And I think one of the biggest travesties, was about 10 years ago when they purchased this program for $25 million. It didn't work, and they scrapped it. So our tax dollars at work, everybody.
There you go. Robert, what's next?
So much waste, If they had people who knew what they were doing, it's so much easier. Did we read about Incise Therapeutics?
No. Go ahead.
Incise Therapeutics, that's NINSYS Therapeutics Incorporated, last Wednesday said that it reached the deal to pay at least $150 million to resolve a U.S. Justice Department investigation into claims that the drug maker paid doctors kickbacks to prescribe a powerful opioid medication. The tentative deal announced that the Arizona-based drug maker marked a major step in Incise's effort to resolve an investigation that had been led by former executives and doctors being criminally charged, including billionaire founder John Kapoor.
Speaking of Uber, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, in a paper titled Reality Check, issued a warning that cars and trucks with electronic driver assist systems may not detect stopped vehicles and could even steer into a crash if one is unattentive. Testing performed on 5 of the systems from Tesla, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Volvo on a track and public roads found the systems can fail under many circumstances. What's our time? My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Work Comp Matters. We're brought to you by A1 Law, the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system in the damn Kuiper Belt. Give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached, money-back guaranteed, $1 a day, A1 Law. Also, if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out, even front row concert, sports, theater tickets, give my buddy Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. And, of course, if you want the best rugs in town, ABC Rugs. So I got to tell you guys, it has been a hell of a 24 hours for me. You know, I'm driving the weekend car because my daughter is in town. So, of course, I give her my 4-door Honda that has all the bells and whistles, the air conditioning, the comfort, the Bluetooth. I'm driving like a 39, 40-year-old car that has no air conditioning, drives like a truck under 35 miles an hour. And I had to go to downtown L.A. yesterday afternoon, and I had to go to Anaheim this morning, and I am just sweating profusely, and I have to change clothes like every time I drive somewhere after 30 minutes. So I'm kind of exhausted. I'm kind of verklempt. I'm sweating. I'm kind of tired. And Jared, the IT guy, is in the studio barking orders at all of us. And so I'm just getting a little stressed, you know? But thank goodness I've got Work Comp Matters for my therapy to calm me down, to center me out, just to chill a little after a long day and have a nice sleep.
Man, what a good dad you are.
Oh, well, you're very kind. Thank you very much. Well, I'm very proud that both my kids graduated with undergrad degrees. They have zero debt, and you know, they're deciding whether or not they want to go into the workforce, do further graduate studies, or travel around the world. And you know, I just do my best to get them prepared to support themselves, because, you know, 10 or 20 years, they're going to have to take care of me. I can't do this forever, or can I? Okay, who's got the next news story, the talk, wants to complain about an issue?
Well, I have an issue.
Talking about guilty.
I have an issue, and I suppose it may lead to a guilty plea, but I'm more thinking about the word busted. Asia Argento, she's the woman that accused Weinstein of rape at Cannes.
Oh my God!
And I have no doubt that
now
happened.
Someone accused her.
Yes.
Well,
and now there are pictures of her and the accuser in bed.
Now, she had said at one point that they were just friends, but the photographs I saw did not look like it was just friends.
Please text me those photographs.
Well, maybe you know, it could have been friends with benefits. You have heard of that, correct?
Well, I think the really interesting aspect of this is apparently days before she accused Weinstein, who I have no doubt is guilty, at Cannes, her boyfriend at the time, Anthony Bourdain, paid the guy who had just turned 17 at the time of the alleged sexual intercourse, paid the guy $380,000.
Really?
Man,
Yeah.
what a lucky 17-year-old guy, huh?
Well, now,
Wow.
Now, she
Well, he's not
initially,
17
she
anymore,
initially
but you know
said
what I
that
mean.
nothing had happened. And then she apparently now is saying that it did happen, but the dough that was paid to him was compassionate because he needed money.
Okay.
He was in financial difficulty.
So,
Hey, I could use some
I
money.
could use some compassionate dough.
I could use some compassionate money.
Now, Robert, the interesting thing about this to me is I think it has something to do with Bourdain offing himself.
see, I don't know.
I don't know
about how that connection would play in. I'm sure
I don't know
Bourdain
about
was depressed about a lot of things. I mean, he
Right.
did commit suicide, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure this former, the past sexual assault of his girl would, his girlfriend or fiance or that whatever, would be a stressor.
He's the one that facilitated the payment.
But I don't see why you would take away from the weight of her accusations against Weinstein because maybe she did something inappropriate with a young boy.
I'm not.
Plus, let's be honest, isn't there a double standard where if you're a 17-year-old guy and you get to sleep with a beautiful older woman, come on now, right?
Not in the eyes of the law, supposedly.
I get that, all right, but there's a big... But we see it not in the eyes of the law here, right? We're looking at what's reasonable.
Yeah.
But if it was the reverse, I would be upset. Okay, if it was a young girl and it's an older guy, then it's the situation of power and dominance, and then it's not appropriate. Okay, so everything is case specific. So I don't feel too bad for this 17-year-old boy who now is an older man who had $320,000 dropped on him.
380.
Oh, okay. Well, taxes and attorney's fees, I'm sure.
And he's, 22 now?
Yeah, 22 now, right.
That's a good start in life, you know what I mean?
But the photographs, then there's 2 photographs I saw, were extraordinary because I can't remember the last time it was an older woman and a younger guy. I mean, it's always, it seems to me, an older guy and a younger woman, like Mike Lowe, that tape 20 years ago.
Correct.
So I think it's an extraordinary situation.
Well, it's a double standard, yeah.
But let me ask you a quick question because I can't remember all the details. Did the boy or did the man come forward?
I don't know who initiated it. Those facts have not come out.
Right.
Probably if he's a young guy, he told his friends about, I slept with this beautiful older woman. And then somebody who with the brain saw an opportunity to make money by informing him that, wow, she's making these claims against this person. Can you imagine if you made these claims against her? Then it would be...
Supposedly,
he only slept with her once. He only slept with her once.
Probably. I mean,
that's what they're saying now, and it was in L.A. And who is, Harvey Levin's program? TMZ apparently was the one that broke everything. Okay.
Right.
Now, and initially, again, this woman Argento was saying, no, it didn't happen, for crying out loud, with the communism and all that kind of stuff. And then TMZ issued. They got a hold of some texts.
Right.
Where she's saying, well, yes, it happened, but there goes Elvis. Oh, my God. So she's dirty, it looks like. And I'm not mitigating anything about Weinstein. I think he's awful. But
he is. He's a
she
slime
committed
ball.
a statutory rape,
Yeah.
possibly. She committed statutory rape.
Yes, she did.
Well, clearly, 17 years old. So
Yes.
Well, isn't 17, there's a gray area if you had a pre-existing... No.
no.
Not in
Some states.
California.
So it depends where you're sleeping together, right?
If you're in Arkansas, it's 14.
Do we know?
Yeah,
Do we know
exactly,
where this
exactly.
alleged sex took place? What location?
It was apparently in some hoity-toity
It was a
Beverly
It
hotel,
was a
right?
hotel. Yeah, it was in a hotel.
California.
Yes, it was.
So this is a 17-year-old guy with a beautiful older woman in a nice hotel in Beverly Hills.
Correct.
This is not real, okay? This is not. And then you get paid $380,000. No, come on now. This is a gift that keeps on giving. You know.
Think this is American Pie. American
Yeah,
Pie.
this is not real. Oh, we're reading the porn news.
Well,
That's the problem.
Some of the Me Too women have been coming out and issuing tweets, etc., and some of them are giving Ms. Argento a break, and some of them are not. Some of them are coming out and saying child abuse is child abuse is child abuse is child abuse.
Well,
Okay,
child
so
abuse.
wait a minute, wait. I'm curious. You said some of them have been giving her a break?
Yes.
And, okay, so what if a break how? What are they saying?
Well, that's the interesting part. I can't quote them verbatim, but it's something like, well, we don't know everything that happened.
Well, how do you guys stand on it? Are you firm on the law, or do you
I'm
kind
firm
of
on the law.
You're
This is
firm on the
child
law?
abuse. She should be prosecuted.
Ted, you firm on the law? You feel like Johnny be good here? You be a good guy?
Hey, look.
Follow the book?
Let me tell you something. Okay.
Ted's already blushing.
Let me tell you something.
Ted, when Ted was 17, he had an experience with an older woman.
I
I'm telling you,
I
a
had
couple
several.
Of them.
I had
Okay.
several.
Well, Ted's good
with-
looking.
with-
That's what
with older
happens.
women. One of them was my teacher. So
Oh,
Really?
yes,
Oh, wow.
yes.
This is good.
It was
juicy.
a substitute teacher.
high school teacher.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a substitute teacher.
My life was not like this.
I was 16 years old at the time.
Mike and Robert, shut up. I want to hear this. Tell me.
And she was a beautiful black woman, and I remember just being awestruck by her. And the interesting thing about me when I was in high school is I never wore jeans. I wore dress pants and a dress shirt every day.
The best dressed man.
Every day.
Go on.
And so I don't. You gentlemen may not know. I also paint.
I did
draw
not
and
know
paint.
that. I did not know that.
Well dressed.
So
cultured.
it just so happened this woman had a daughter who loved The Little Prince, which is a French character. and I did a painting of Little Prince and presented it to her. And so
you did. Okay, hold on. Let's reset. You did a painting for the substitute teacher's daughter.
Correct, to give to her daughter, to just to win favor. So on her last day, I asked her if I could walk her to her car.
This is the substitute teacher.
Yeah, the substitute
Go
teacher.
on.
So
yeah.
I did, and so we arrived at her vehicle. And as she sat down in the car, leaned down on her, kissed her, and then one thing led to another.
In the car?
Yes.
In the parking lot of the school, in the car.
What year was
Absolutely.
this? What year?
Oh, God. That would have been
40
That would have
years
been
ago.
1975.
Yeah, 40 plus years ago.
Good year.
1975.
It's a good year. Wait, how was the rest of your time at school? Were you a happy camper?
Oh, yeah, it was great. And there were other older women that I had relations with.
Ted, did you tell anybody about this this
No.
time in the car? Yeah,
No,
okay.
no.
Were you
I
abused, Ted?
never- No, not at all. No,
Okay.
no.
So in this situation, you probably wouldn't be by the book.
No, I wouldn't be. I mean, I look at it like this, and like you said,
I'm with you on this one, Ted. I'd see the area.
And I mean, we're a very sexist society. When you look at a man that dates a younger woman that's 15, 16, 17 years old, then the man is known in, assuming, a predatory position because of the dominance and so forth. You know, when you have a woman who's dating a younger man, often it isn't that way because it's more of a nurturing and loving sort of relationship, as it were. So I don't look at it as being so much predatory in that sense. And so, I mean, if my sons came to me and talked to me about it, I wouldn't make a big deal about it as long as they were okay, make sure that emotionally they were stable, they didn't feel that there was anything inappropriate, that they felt comfortable with it, it would be a big deal to me.
What do you think your mom would have done if she had known?
Oh, she'd have probably strangled that woman, man.
She would have
yeah.
what?
Oh, she'd have strangled that woman. Oh, yeah.
I think it was the dress
Oh,
pants
yeah.
and the nice shirt. You know, all the other kids, they're boys, and here comes a man. You know, dressed.
So
nice.
you were in public school, right? This wasn't.
Yeah, I was in public school.
Okay.
I was in public school. You
Yeah,
know,
my
so.
my schooling was
Ted,
way
in the
more
South?
boring.
In the South?
Yes, in the South.
uh-huh,
Yes,
gotcha.
North Carolina. In North Carolina,
uh-huh.
absolutely. And for what it's worth, I've had this voice right here. I've had this voice since I was 15 years old.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. It took me about 30 years of cigarette smoking before I got this.
I still don't like to listen to myself on a voicemail, so I'm getting past that.
I think it's time for a musical break. My name is Steve Appel. You're listening to WorkCom Matters. We're brought to you by A1 Law, Santa Monica Tickets, and ABC Rugs. We'll be back after the sweet sounds of Susan Scheller.
1, 2, 3.
Should've known it'd come to this. Sure would like to travel to that crazy place behind your eye. Let it all unravel. Starting out swinging round, stringing up pearls, baby. I could never understand you. Start Spain. Hurricane blowing by your home to me, yeah, home to me. When you're singing out like Sunday on the Memphis radio, you know you sparked my soul like the sun sinking in the sea. Oh, I got my sweet surrender. You can do no wrong with me. Holding on forever. You got to talk to me, baby, in your secret melody. Oh, send it home to me. You got to bring it on home to me, darling. Singing out like Sunday on the Memphis radio. Oh, yeah. You got some restlessness like fire in your veins. Baby, you got my soul. You got a distribution nationwide. keep my music safe inside. Turn it into gold. Turn it into gold. On Memphis radio. Oh, yeah, look at now. Baby, send it home to me. You got to bring it on home to me. When you're singing out like Sunday on a Memphis radio. Singing like Mavis. You let it out like muddy on a Memphis radio. Yeah.
The folk rock sounds of Susan Scheller on Work Comp Matters. Who's got the next news story? Someone just reach out and grab it, please. Thank you.
Okay, in the months before unleashing a hail of bullets into a Las Vegas concert crowd, Stephen Paddock burned through more than $1.5 million, became obsessed with guns and increasingly unstable, and distanced himself from his girlfriend and family, according to an investigative report released last Friday. With those revelations, police announced they were closing their 10-month investigation without a definitive answer for why Paddock, a high-stakes gambler, amassed an arsenal of weapons and carried out the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. Robert, build me up Buttercup.
All right. As more North American governments move on from the war on drugs mentality, some politicians and activists suggest that a cross-border market for legal marijuana products could soon become a reality. With Canada's June decision to legalize recreational cannabis, Mexico's new government is giving serious consideration of legalizing cannabis. Oregon Democratic Congressman Earl Blumenauer, co-founder of the Bipartisan Congressional Cannabis Caucus, try saying that 3 times fast, in 2017 told Newsweek that he sees a legal cross-border North American market as not just possible, but probable.
According to an internal investigation, Pedro Reyes, a former chief consultant to the California Assembly, sexually harassed a colleague over the course of 18 months. The harassment included forcibly kissing on the lips. It is the second time in less than a year that the Assembly has substantiated a complaint against Mr. Reyes, who has since resigned.
Officials on Hawaii's Big Island, where the Kilauea volcano has been spewing huge amounts of lava for months, are bracing for the possibility that frequent earthquakes will cut off a major highway. Emergency officials are turning their focus to the aptly named village of Volcano, where dozens of small earthquakes shake the ground every hour as Kilauea undergoes dramatic changes. And folks, you know there's a hurricane that's bearing down.
Right, I heard about that.
Hawaii.
I heard about that.
It's been like 2 times they've had disruptive and violent hurricanes in the last 30 years.
It's been reduced to a Category 4. It had not hit land yet since at the time I was coming over to the studio.
Right. And, of course, in the news this week and last week, they were talking about how global warming may result in hurricanes hitting California.
Global warming's a crock.
Which would be interesting.
They call it climate change now because Al Gore said we're supposed to be underwater by now. And good thing we're not, because I'm not the best swimmer. I'm kind of leg heavy. But it's fine.
When I say it's a crock, let me qualify that. Yes, the globe, the Earth, is getting warmer, but it's nothing that us humanoids are doing.
So you're just saying it's not man-made, human-made.
No, not at all. And additionally to that, if you check the statistics, in the past 100 years, global warming has been affected by 1 degree, give or take. Fact of the matter is that the sun has been burning itself out for billions of years. And as the sun continues to burn out, the heat continues to thrust out closer to the Earth. This is why, of course, Mercury is the hottest planet. It's closest to the sun. Venus is totally toxic. It's next. And then you have the Earth.
There's been no change in our distance from the sun.
No, there's been a change in the temperature. The Earth continues to get warmer, and the Earth will die. It will burn itself out because the heat and the rays from the sun will eclipse it.
We're talking about hundreds of billions of years, though.
No. Yeah, I'm not talking.
You don't
about
have to worry
next
about
year.
it today.
And this is why we're so insistent on going and colonizing Mars, because eventually the Earth will burn itself out, and the planet that will be able to sustain life will be Mars. But I got off topic.
If our star, and eventually doesn't have enough energy, we do need to become interstellar in the sense of as a species. But that's a different topic.
And it will probably nova before it dies out, I believe.
Well, that's how the death of a star takes place, right?
Exactly.
So,
that's what happens.
So we'll know. But hopefully that's hundreds of billions of years. If humanity is still around, if we haven't killed ourselves, there's a good chance that we've, based on what we've already done in our very small existence. If you talk about the time on Earth that the humans have been around, that for what we've done and how quick the growth of knowledge, exponential. We've started to realize the universe has a rule book, right? Math, science, physics, it's the rules. It's the law of the universe. So the rules are already written. It's for us to figure out what's written on those pages, and we're learning more and more. It's very interesting. I love all that science stuff. We have that probe that went out of our solar system, right? Voyager.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
They're sending one to the sun.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to burn up, and
right.
it's going to give up as much information as
it's going to get closer than any other spacecraft.
Buzz, regarding global warming, right, or
yes.
climate change, as it's now called, to give it more room for wiggle, right? So the ice cores, which you're talking about, you're mentioning that the history of the Earth includes temperature fluctuations more rapid than what we are currently seeing while we have been able to measure it for our limited time.
Correct.
In these ice cores, which they can go back thousands of years, they can measure the level of CO2 in the atmosphere, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, in that, we have had greater fluctuations and greater amounts of CO2 in the atmosphere previously, before humans had ever created a factory, on any shore, than we currently have today. That's different, though, than local pollution. You can see local pollution, but if you go up to the mountains and you look over LA, that's called smog, right? If you go on the beaches of in China, you'll get plastic, right?
Sure.
So I think a lot of people confuse local pollution, which you can see the effects of very quickly. It can change if you could
just go to the top of the San Fernando Valley and look down into the center.
It's a lot better than it used to be, though.
That's different than the CO2 that they're claiming is being released into atmosphere in high amounts, causing the ozone to burn a hole in it, which, by the way, is recovered, surprisingly, and they don't mention that. They also, I believe, had the largest landmass on record for the amount of ice on the North Pole recently.
You're not trying to say it's because humanoids breathe out CO2.
No. All of the CO2
it's the exhaust from all of the factories.
Has the ozone layer recovered?
It has. I think I saw that.
It has recovered to a degree, not 100%.
Not 100%, yeah.
But it has recovered.
And for example, like they were just talking about how Trump cut a lot of CO2 regulations and stuff. We've still cut CO2 emissions in the U.S. without regulations required. The problem is not the U.S. It's always the other countries, which we have no control over. So all we end up doing is strangling our own businesses with unnecessary regulation.
Isn't China a main polluter?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my God.
We're
They're
banning,
the worst. I think they're the worst.
We talked about straw bans, right? Because we have like 0.0001% of the total pollution in the ocean being straws from America. And that, for some reason, should be the specific thing that we target out to change the world one step at a time. You got to be kidding me, okay? I want my straw, all right? I'm not going to put my mouth on the dirty glass that some guy didn't care about washing from the customer before, okay? That's why we have straws.
A reusable straw.
Yeah, I can't wait till the restaurant gets sued for some sort of E. coli outbreak on every cup, and then I'm like, oh, I wish we had straws,
I couldn't agree more. any last burning desires, or anybody want to read another news story? It's been quite a guilty show.
Right, and we're going to end...
Bunch of guilty pleasures.
And we're going to end with this one, which I think is absolutely perfect. Harvey Weinstein is locked in a messy battle with insurance companies over his steadily mounting legal bills. The insurance company Chubb and other carriers that wrote liability policies for...
wait a minute. What's the name of that insurance company?
Chubb.
Chubb? You mean like Harvey Weinstein is having problems with his Chubb insurance?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ted. Tell us more about Harvey Weinstein and his Chubb insurance.
Well, he's fighting with Chubb and other carriers that wrote liability policies for Weinstein and his film company, are arguing in court that they shouldn't have to pay for his defense against allegations of rape and sexual harassment. I think that's an absolute hoot.
And Mike, you said earlier there's no question that he's guilty, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll wait for the jury to render their verdict if it ever comes.
In the court of public opinion, it's over.
No. In the court of public opinion, it's over.
Right.
Yeah, that's dangerous, don't you think? I mean, not for him. Who cares about him? But for the system.
Well, as far as all of a sudden now he's persona non grata because in the court of public opinion he's guilty.
I'm just wondering how he's going to get a fair trial in such an environment where everybody knows that this guy's guilty.
Maybe try it in North Dakota or something.
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, that jury selection, right? That's got to take a while.
Well, I certainly want him to have a fair trial.
Yeah, that's what me too. But obviously, we all think that he's guilty of more than what he's being charged for, right? That's everyone's feeling, pretty much.
An insurance company? These are intentional acts. I mean, sexual battery is an intentional act.
Right.
How can an insurance company be involved at all?
I think a lot of the allegations go with the exchange of the quid pro quo of the job in the movie for a sexual favor.
Right.
And because of that, he's using his position in the company and the film itself, which is insured, and as a
well, they're also alleging
a tool, as a leverage
speaking
tool.
of the company, they're saying that a lot of people in the company conspired to perform to allow the illegal acts to happen.
Well, and also if you look at it from the opinion, even if you compare it to like Disney, okay, when you have someone that sues Disney, the insurance company, they finance the legal defense. They do. So it's no different in that sense. It isn't.
I'm wondering, but for insurance, this is not for the criminal side. Criminal, of course, he has to pay out of his own pocket. This is for the company. This is Chubb Insurance.
Yes, that's for the correct.
I'm wondering, perhaps there's a different type of claim in the lawsuit, like a bad faith negotiation, bad faith contract, where they're alleging that the sex was part of the bad faith by the company. And because of this, it should be covered under the negotiation of the policy and blah, 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 right?
Probably.
So I think that's the argument that at least Weinstein and his company is making, that, hey, all these allegations, at most, if they are true, which they're denying still, would have been as part of an exchange of compensation related to the film, because that's their allegation in the pleadings, after all. And if that's the sense, these negotiations or contract claims arise out of this policy, are covered by this policy.
Got news for you. It ain't his company anymore, pal. I'd love to hear more, but we are out of time. For the chief of staff, my right-hand man, Mike Zyma, keeping me in check and out of trouble at least 90% of the time. The best-dressed man in workers' compensation, Mr. Ted Durden. My protege, attorney, Robert Ozeron. Scott Walton of Uncle's Studio, taking care of the technical difficulties, engineering the show. A special thank you to Jared, the IT guy, who's here filming against my wishes, but it has to be done. And, of course, we could not continue to provide this valuable service without all of the good people back at WorkComp Central, including, but not limited to, Leaf File and Jake Paris. My name is Steve Appel. We'll see you again next week for another edition of WorkComp Matters.